Good afternoon, dear students. I, Geeta Chaudhary from Zebo School for Children, welcome you all for this exciting virtual trip. Today, I have with us our mentor and guide, Ms. Shubha Godbole. She is the subject matter expert for all schools that comes under Udgam consultancy. I also have my colleague, Ms. Hina Kumari Dholakia from Udgam School for Children. Hey, students, so how are you all? Stuck at home for long amid pandemic, isn't it? Am I right? Okay. Tell me, what is that unusual thing you did in your vacations? Sang, danced, developed some new hobbies, spent your time with your family and friends, right? Am I correct? But at home, no chance to go out. So, don't you think that you and me would feel much better to do something as different than can be?
Oh, yeah. Why not take you all on for a virtual voyage into the deep blue waters of National Marine Aquarium? Isn't it interesting, students?
Yes, Hina ma'am. So, are you ready to have a great time to just sit and dive deep and get fascinated by the sea life? Dear students, no more to wait. Come on, let's spend some time watching the beautiful creatures at the National Marine Aquarium, located in Britain's Ocean City, Plymouth. Do you know, students? Being one of the largest aquarium in the UK, it homes to many marine creatures and groundbreaking ocean conservation work, a charity dedicated to connecting people with the ocean.
Dear students, do you know our school's motto to organize the virtual trips is to enable the students to appreciate marine life, to observe, conserve, and to know more about their habitats and the physical traits.
Yes. So, Hina ma'am, let us know more about this virtual trip from our subject matter expert, Shubha
Sure, ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, Shubha ma'am, why are the virtual trips so important?
These particular virtual trips, they are enriching, first of all, and they
Yes.
create interactive experiences. They cater to students of all the learning styles and they expose them to diverse perspectives. I believe that the visual stimulation, it helps the student to absorb the information. And in this wake of digital technology, I believe that these particular virtual trips allow the students to travel the world, both in time and space. It's my pleasure to introduce Stu Higgs, the program manager, who will be taking us for an exciting tour. He is brilliant and knows much more about marine life. I request Stu Higgs to take forward the virtual trip. So let's enjoy, children.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. This is a real privilege. My name is Stu. I run the schools program at the aquarium here in Plymouth. So as well as welcoming people from the public with their families to come and see our animals, we take pride in showing schools around. Sometimes schools visit the aquarium, but in the last year, as the COVID pandemic has been here in England, we've done a lot of virtual sessions. So today we're going to go and have a look around the aquarium. I'm going to show you as many things as I possibly can. I've got lots of information to tell you about them, but I think that you also have some questions and things that you want to know. So at the end of our tour, we'll have time to do that and we'll have time to answer some questions. I'm going to begin by turning the camera around because you're here to see animals, not here to see me. Let me exchange. Great. And I'll begin by showing you the view from the window. So in Plymouth, our aquarium is right on the coast. This bit of water out here with the boats is known locally as Plymouth Sound. It's on the very edge of the English Channel, which in turn is connected to the Atlantic Ocean. So we could jump in one of those boats and sail out across into the Atlantic Ocean over to America. But it doesn't stop there, because scientists all over the world are now beginning to recognize that there isn't lots of different oceans. We can talk about the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic, and the Southern Ocean as 5 separate places. But in fact, all 5 of those oceans are connected. And the animals that live in them, whilst they may have a temperature that they prefer, or a level of salt, salinity that they prefer, there's no reason those animals couldn't travel across any ocean. And indeed, some animals do. As I'm sure you know, some whales, dolphins, and other creatures move from one ocean to the next as they migrate. Most of our animals, though, such as the lobster in front of me, with his 2 powerful claws for opening shells, stay very local. They're territorial animals, and their habitats are actually very small. Raoul is approaching me now because he's curious. He can hear the noise of my voice and see through the glass my blue top, which of course is the same as him, the same color. Now, lobsters are not very talkative. They don't have hairstyles or clothes, and one species of lobster looks very similar to another individual in the same species. So the lobster has developed a special method of communication. When it sees another lobster, it approaches, it comes very close, and it actually goes to the toilet. It goes to the toilet through its eyeballs. It leaks urine out of its eyeball into the face of another lobster, and the lobster it's close to tastes that urine and recognizes the other lobster by the taste. It's really amazing. It's really incredible. It's not appropriate for humans to say hello in this fashion, but for lobsters, it works really well. Now, the lobster is one of many animals that live in a habitat called a rock pool. So in Plymouth here, we're very fortunate because there are many, many rock pools. Rock pools are found on the coast in the areas where the tide comes in and out, covering a very rugged 3-dimensional landscape. Where the rocks and boulders on the shore are uneven, as the tide goes out, as the waves recede, little pockets of water are trapped on the coast, and those pockets of water become home to animals. Not large animals like whales or dolphins, but instead small creatures such as the crabs and lobsters. Also animals like these little blobs on the rock are called sea anemones. We'll see plenty of sea anemones today because they're found in oceans all over the world. They come in different shapes and sizes and are in fact related to jellyfish. The sea anemones that you can see on the rocks here, just very, very small ones, have their tentacles tucked into their bodies at the moment. So jellyfish, you may know, have stinging tentacles. Those stinging tentacles help it to catch food. The sea anemone has the same, but instead it uses its tentacles to catch food. And when the tide goes out and the habitat becomes dry, it can tuck its tentacles into its mouth to stay safe. Let me show you here one of my favorite animals. It's a starfish. In Plymouth, our starfish normally have 5 arms, like this one down at the bottom. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each arm, as you can see, is covered with tiny feet. Those feet allow it to walk and crawl along the seabed. Starfish, although they have the word fish in their name, aren't in fact fish at all. They're a type of invertebrate, so animal without a backbone. As well as their 5 arms, if we follow the arms to the middle of their body, you can see a hole in the middle. That hole is their mouth. And we're lucky at the moment because these starfish are being fed. Over here, can we come and join you? Is that okay? Great. Over on this side, we're feeding more of the animals. Every day, just like you and I, animals in the sea need to eat. Some animals eat constantly, and other animals eat just every few days. In the aquarium, we have over 4,000 animals in total, from the very large to the very small. And it's an important part of daily life to ensure that they all get fed. The fish that we're looking at the moment are, there's a range of different species. The one I want to show you is down here. Oh, haha. We have 2, one here and one down here also. These are flatfish. So unlike the other fish swimming around in the water, these flatfish have a specially evolved body shape. They look really funny. They are laterally flattened. And you can see from this character in front of me that they actually have 2 eyes on the top of their body and a mouth at the front. When a flatfish like this is first born, oh, it's going for a swim. Believe it or not, the flatfish looks like an ordinary fish when it's first born. And as it gets older, as its body matures, just like humans, it undergoes a change. It's not the same change as humans, though. Instead, its organs and its body start to shift in relative position to each other. So the structure of its skeleton changes. One side of the skeleton grows faster than the other. And as a result, it starts to distort its shape. Eventually, as a full-grown adult, you see, like the example here. Hang on, I focus. Its body becomes flat. Its scales and skin have adopted a similar pattern and color to the substrate, so to the material on the floor that it's lying on. And its flat profile gives it brilliant camouflage. In our science curriculum here in Plymouth, the word we use to describe this is a niche. So we use the term adaptation to describe how over hundreds and millions of years, this species has evolved and adapted. And now its body features and its behavior make it perfectly adapted to survive in a way that the other fish are not able to. So these pollock and mullet, they can swim around in the surface and water column area, but the flatfish are undisturbed at the bottom and have access to different food, different homes, and different opportunities within the same environment. As I said, in our science curriculum, we call this a niche. And every animal, whether it lives in rock pools, forests, mountains, or deserts, has adapted to live in its own niche. Let me show you now our rock pool. So this is a really good example of what you might find on our coastal rocky shores. The area that I described before where the water has receded at low tide and left a pool of trapped water. Life in a rock pool can be challenging because if you are trapped in a rock pool, you could be trapped in with any other animal. On a good day, you might be trapped in with a species that you prey upon, which means that you have got food right there for you that you can eat all day long until the tide comes back in. But of course, the flip side of that is that on a bad day, you might be trapped in the rock pool with an animal that likes to eat you. You might be the prey. If that's the case, you need a special adaptation to survive. And there are loads of examples of adaptations for survival in a rock pool. This large crab in front of me is called an edible crab. Here in Plymouth, we have a snack, a type of food that we love to eat. It's called a pasty, a Cornish pasty. And the edible crab is named edible, which means eatable, because the shape of its shell is exactly the same as the Cornish pasty. So in this part of the world, we call it the eatable crab. It's eatable by us because, of course, we've got special tools to catch it. But in the rock pool, that hard shell will keep the edible crab safe. It's got claws to allow it to break open shells and find its own food, just like the lobster. But it's also got the shell that goes around its entire body, including the back, and I can show you another one here. Here he is, hiding in the rock. Oh, splash. The claws of the crab extend to the front of its body. And that's brilliant because it's able to use its claws like hands. Maybe you guys can make some claws with your hands. If your claws go up and down like this, you've got the claws of a crab. If your claws go side to side, they are the claws of a lobster. So both crabs and lobsters have claws like this to defend themselves and to interact with objects and catch prey. The crab is vulnerable from the rear though, because whilst it has its carapace shell to protect it, its claws cannot reach behind it. This means that we can pick up a crab by approaching it from behind, but also predators of the crab. There's another one here next to something called a sun star. So a starfish with as many as 20 legs. Hello, crab. So as discussed, as I've mentioned, the crab is vulnerable from behind. We can approach from behind to collect it and pick it up, but so too can the most famous predator of the crab. The most famous, and in my opinion, wonderful predator of a crab, let me turn the camera around, is in this tank here. You may have guessed it already. It's the octopus. Here is our octopus. It's only small. Its name is Noodles. And Noodles is a wonderful common octopus. She's quite new to the aquarium. She hasn't been here very long and she's shy, so I'm speaking quietly. Octopus are incredibly clever. Scientists believe that an octopus is about as intelligent as a dog. And as you may know, dogs are clever enough to play games and do tricks and interact with things. Octopus like this also play games, solve problems, and recognize people. So our octopus has a small tank here. Can you still see the octopus? Right down here. And she has all of this space to use. Octopus can be quite shy. They're masters of camouflage. They can change their body shape and their texture and color to hide and camouflage. And they do that because they don't have many other natural defenses. Unlike the crab with its carapace, for example, if a predator finds them, they could be in real trouble. So they don't like large open spaces. So we've created a special exhibit here full of rocks and hiding places. But to give her more room as well, we've connected that tank with this one. So our octopus can swim from one tank to another using an ability that octopus are famous for, which is their ability to squeeze through things, to change their body shape, which they can do, of course, as invertebrates relatively easily because they have no bones. So this tube in the middle of the tank here is filled with water, and the octopus can actually squeeze through there, and they love exploring. They love living around rocks and holes and tubes to get into the other area. So unlike most of the other animals in this aquarium, our octopus actually lives in a 3-roomed house. There she is at the moment up at the front of the tank. You can see her move. You can see all of her tentacles and her suckers as she slowly walks along the front of the glass. She's an amazing animal. She has one central brain in the middle of her head, as you and I do. But then she actually has an additional brain at the top of every arm. So if she were a human, she would have one brain in her head and then one brain in each armpit. In total, she has 9 brains. And this reflects the complexity of her biology. So her muscles in each of her arms are very complex. They're very complicated. Each arm has hundreds of suckers along it, and each arm itself is full of muscles that all need to be individually controlled in order to help her move. Not only that, but she then has to coordinate the movement of 8 arms all at the same time, complete with all of those suckers. Now, for our next stop in a few moments, we're going to head down here to one of the biggest tanks in the aquarium. It's called the Edistone Tank. And the creatures and landscape in it have been modeled on our Edistone reef here in Plymouth. The rocks underneath the Edistone waters are actually really prominent, and they pose a danger to boat traffic in the area. Historically, many boats unknowingly sailing into that area have ended up crashing into the hidden rocks, having accidents and breaking. And in the past, people have lost their lives on those rocks. So 100 or more years ago, an inventor came along and built a lighthouse on that rock. And now the lighthouse warns all the boat traffic about the hidden dangers. However, those rocks aren't just dangerous, they're also really valuable because they're a home to hundreds and hundreds of types of creature, from very small sea anemones that live on them all day long, attached with their sucker feet and waving their tentacles in the water column, all the way up to the largest species of shark and other fish that live in the waters. I'm going to come and take a closer look at the Edistone, and we'll see some of those creatures. But before we look at them, I'm actually going to spin us around and take a look at another inhabitant that would normally be found in these waters, but we've had to separate because although it contains stinging cells called nematocysts, it's likely to end up being eaten if we put it in there. So it's in its own special enclosure. It's called the jellyfish. I imagine there are people watching this video who love jellyfish. I'm certainly one of those people who love jellyfish because they're really incredible animals. They have no brain, no eyes, no nose, no ears, just a mouth, a large round part to their body called a bell. And if you look carefully on these, some tentacles. I'll try and come closer. The tentacles on this species of jellyfish are barely visible. It's called a moon jellyfish. And I'm sure it's obvious to you why we might call it a moon jellyfish, as it glows in a circular shape in the gloom of the water. Moon jellyfish are Plymouth's most frequently encountered jellyfish. But they're not the only jellyfish, and around the world, jellyfish come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I'll bring you back this way because I'd really love to show you a very attractive species of jellyfish called the sea nettle. Here you can see the sea nettle has got much, much bigger tentacles. These tentacles trailing behind them in the water are what it would use to sting its prey. Here's another. As soon as something touches the tentacle of the jellyfish, a special cell in its tentacle is triggered. That cell is called a nematocyst, and it fires out a harpoon into the thing that has touched it. That harpoon can paralyze its prey so that the long, thin tentacles hidden amongst these white frilly ones can then draw themselves up and pull the prey of the jellyfish into the mouth in the middle of its body, just like a starfish. It has a mouth hidden in the center of its body, which it uses to swallow its prey and digest in order to get nutrients. Just like us, animals in the sea require a diet of different nutrients. Some are herbivores, relying on plants and vegetation. Some are carnivores, relying on meat, whilst others eat a combination of the two as omnivores. I've stopped the camera here on our upside down jellyfish. So if you look carefully, you'll notice these have the same body shape as the other jellyfish we've seen. Of course, they have slight variations in color and shape, but the essential parts, which features the bell, the large round bit, and the tentacles, are all present. Upside down jellyfish, despite not having a brain as such, have evolved in a really clever way. By swimming down into the sand and pulsing into the sand, they keep their bell safe, because it's the bell that is actually most commonly eaten by other animals. The bell, remember, has no nematocysts. There are no stinging cells there, so it's an easy meal. By waving the tentacles above the bell and keeping the bell hidden in the sand, upside down jellyfish are able to ensure they stay really safe, and other animals can't get to their bell because the tentacles are in the way. Okay. The first of our sharks has appeared here in the Edistone Tank as we've come back. Sharks are amazing animals that have been around for millions of years. If we look carefully at any of the Hi guys, are you still there? I think I might have just lost you for a second. I'm coming up, looking in our chat here. Hello?
Yes, we are here, sir.
Oh, great. Okay, I just lost you for a second there. Thank you very much. Okay, so like I say, the both sharks and fish have got long bodies. They have fins to help them move through the water. And importantly, they have gills too. So this little slit here is called a gill. Humans and other mammals have lungs, and those lungs help us to breathe air. In particular, specifically, the gas that we're after with our lungs is oxygen. Oxygen is found in air, but it's also found in water. And these fish and sharks use their gills to draw fresh water in, just as we draw fresh air in. And then the organs themselves, the gills, can extract oxygen from water. So even though we never see fish coming up to the surface to take a breath of air, they're still just like us, relying on oxygen to help them to live. So we've seen then that the fish in the aquarium and the animals that live in the sea require food, just like we do. They may have different diets. They may be herbivores, omnivores, or carnivores. They require oxygen too, and they need shelter. We've seen examples of how animals use the rocks and the sand for shelter. I'm going to take us over to one of our other tanks, a personal favorite of mine, and one of the biggest tanks in the whole aquarium. This tank is 2.5 million litres of water, and it features really excitingly some of the biggest sharks in the United Kingdom. Oh, and the stingrays too. So here we have 2 sharks. I'll follow the slower. This is a sand tiger shark. And above it, a giant stingray. Look at that. Oh my goodness, that was a large stingray swimming off into the distance of the tank. Here comes another stingray. So our stingrays are dark on the top and then light on the underneath. You may have noticed this as it swam past. Hopefully we'll see another one in a moment. This is another evolutionary importance feature of surviving in the ocean. It's called counter shading. We can see it on this shark as well. Light underneath. Oh, he's speedy. And darker on the top. This means, oh, sorry about the focus, everyone. It's difficult to focus on this tank because the depth of the water is so great. So counter shading, being darker on the top and lighter underneath, means that if you're a predator and you're looking down on your prey, you're looking into the gloom and the darkness. So a dark color on top will help the prey species camouflage from the gloom. If your predator is below you, looking up towards the light, then a nice light underneath will help you camouflage and stay safe from that predator. It makes sense then for prey species to have counter shading, but it also benefits predators. Predators that need to sneak up on or surprise their prey in an open ocean where you can see creatures coming from quite a long way away, benefit from having counter shading because it allows them to get closer to their prey without being seen. So it's a phenomenon that we find both in predators and prey in the ocean. It's a really beautiful tank. It's full of many of our local species. We don't find these in Plymouth Sound, But as I mentioned at the start of the tour, if we were to go a little further out in one of those boats we saw at the very beginning, we would head out into the Atlantic Ocean. And it's there in the open Atlantic Ocean that we would find animals like this sand tiger shark. Although fearsome looking, not in fact a danger to humans. These particular sharks have been around for hundreds of millions of years. And during that time, they've evolved to be the perfect predator of fish. Humans are very rarely attacked by sharks. It has happened on occasion. There are stories of it in the news. You may even have heard of someone who this has happened to, but it's not very common. Every animal on the planet has evolved over hundreds or millions of years to catch certain prey. And humans are not on the menu for many animals at all. Okay. I'm aware of the time, everyone. So I'm going to take you down just for a quick look at our last section, the tropical exhibit area, just to see what we can see. And then I believe, if I've understood our program right today, we've got time for some questions about all of the amazing things that we've seen and all of the other things that you might want to talk about with me. Let's just have a little look as we come down the corridor. This corridor is very brightly patterned, and that reflects the fact that we've now left the Atlantic Ocean behind, and we're here to take a look at the more tropical waters, where, sure enough, the animals are more brightly coloured too. In some cases, they're larger as well. So on the glass of this tank, we can see some really huge sea anemones. Remember the ones in the rock pools of Plymouth Sound were only as big as the tip of my thumb. Well, these sea anemones, as you can see compared to my hand, are huge, and you can clearly see their tentacles and their body. Notice how similar they are to the upside down jellyfish. This is because these species are very closely related. They're all together in a group of animals called polyps. On my left, we can see the most famous in all the world example of a species of fish that benefits from living amongst these polyps. It's a clownfish. Clownfish have evolved to be the same color as the anemones that they live amongst. Their orange stripes help them blend in perfectly with the sea anemones that grow in the rocks. Sea anemones have stinging cells, the nematocysts, the same as jellyfish. But clownfish are actually covered in a type of mucus or slime, which prevents the stinging cells of the sea anemone from working. So they can swim amongst the tentacles all day long without getting stung. And even better than that, hide from their predators. So if a predatory animal chases a clownfish into the tentacles of a sea anemone, well, the clownfish will be fine, but the predator without that mucus will get stung over and over and over again. Enough, surely, to deter it from trying to catch and eat the clownfish. So whilst we've seen some really
Hello, students. Just hold on, okay? Sir will be back within few seconds. Maybe there is some network glitches, okay? And all your question answers will be solved. Don't worry, okay? I am jotting down here all the questions, and whenever sir will complete this visit, I'll definitely ask your questions to sir, okay? So sit quietly and enjoy this visit, right? Okay, some students have asked many questions, my God. So did you enjoy this thoroughly, students? Have you observed? Wow, great. Some students have answered questions also very well. And they're asking, okay, students, this is a trip to UK. Okay, and in UK, we have in India, it's afternoon. Okay, just now it's 2:30, 2:40 almost. Okay, but in UK, it's almost morning, 10 o'clock, right? So they have morning and we have afternoon. So some students have asked this question, what country is it? Okay, and some students have asked question, why these animals are not kept free in the ocean, why they are kept in the ocean. Fine, so that sir will answer. I think sir is right back, right?
Yes, yes. Sorry,
Yes.
I
Welcome
lost
back,
you for
sir.
a
Yeah,
moment there.
it's
Thank
okay,
you.
sir. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to just take a seat here. Let me spin this around. You're quite right that it's about 10 o'clock in the morning here now, which means that the aquarium is open to the public. Because the aquarium has opened, I've changed my look. I have this mask on now. Can you still hear me okay with the mask? Is that okay? I hope
Yes,
you
sir,
can
we
still
can
hear
hear
me
you.
okay. Oh, great, brilliant. So, yes, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning here. Our first visitors are coming in for the day, and we'll be open now until 5 o'clock. So we're open for 7 more hours.
Okay.
You had a question, I think, about
Yes,
why.
sir. Many questions are asked by students.
Yeah.
First of all, though, a very young child has asked question. Sir, this all animals, especially lobster, when it wants to go to washroom, where it will go?
Ah, that's a lovely question.
Very young children. Yeah.
Yeah, they just go in the water.
Yeah.
In the ocean, it's so big, then it just gets carried away. Here in our tanks, we have special machines, and it's part of people's job to go in and clean the tanks.
Okay.
So it's a dirty job.
Thank you very much, sir. And see, there are questions, we need to satisfy their answer. So for us, it may be a very common question, but for them, it's a very important question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another question, sir. If you said jellyfish, they don't have brain, they don't have eyes, then how do they control their body and how can they see other animals?
Oh, a brilliant question. And
Yeah, brilliant question.
the truth is, they can't see other animals. Jellyfish don't choose where they swim, so they're at the mercy, we would say, of the tides and the currents. If the tide or the current, the water carries the jellyfish this way, the jellyfish goes that way. If the tide turns, the jellyfish comes back. And so for this reason, we sometimes find hundreds or thousands of jellyfish that have all come together because that is just how they've been carried almost by the water. They don't need to see their prey either because the nematocyst, it works like a reflex. So I don't know if you know how to do this. Maybe some of your students do, but let me try and show you. If you sit with your leg crossed over the other, and then ask a friend just below your kneecap to chop your knee with their hand. If you do this, it will trigger a reflex in your knee that will make your foot come up and kick. And it's
Yes.
exactly the same thing for the jellyfish. If something touches the nematocyst, it can't help it. It just fires the stinger and then tries to eat it.
Okay. Wow, very nice, sir. And another question, I really like this question. Who is the predator of jellyfish? Because if other fish try to eat it, it may paralyze, then nobody will eat jellyfish.
Hmm. Yeah, there are some animals that can eat jellyfish. The most famous predator of the jellyfish is the sea turtle. And the sea turtle has it's called a beak, like on a bird. It has a hard mouth and it can bite through and eat the bell. In the insides, it may still feel uncomfortable in the throat here, but it loves to eat them. It's the same with different species of fish. They'll come along and just peck the top of the jellyfish.
Okay. And sir, your sharks you have kept in such a huge tank, right? And
Yeah.
they eat other fish. So they don't finish all this fish, whatever in the tank.
No, no, no. Um, it's inaccurate representation to describe sharks as ravenous predators, as killers,
I
etc.
agree.
It's a myth. In fact, sharks are two things that really help us in this situation. The first is very clever, and the second is very lazy. So
Oh, I see.
the reason sharks have the reputation for sensing out blood is because if an animal is bleeding, it means that it's injured already, or it's wounded, or it's sick. And the niche of the shark is that it has evolved to hunt the injured, wounded, and sick fish because they're easier to catch. And the shark will always take the easy option when it comes to food. So what we do is we train the shark, uh, and by putting in, we call it a target, into the water. And when the shark swims near that target, it gets some food. The food we give it is actually a frozen fish on a stick, like a lollipop.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to swim fast or hunt it. It can just glide by and take it really easily. And then the shark is full. So by keeping them well fed and providing easy meals, they're so clever and so lazy, they decide it's too much effort to try and catch these healthy fish. Instead,
Okay.
they just take our food.
Okay. And sir, in the initial, when first 2, 3 tanks when you had shown us, right, in that some flatfish were there, fine. So this flatfish we have seen at the bottom of the tank. So they do not go on at the top of tank, or they do not swim with other fish.
No, not very often. In within the fish here behind me, we can look at the mouth of the fish. And your students, you can try this at home. Let me demonstrate. If my hand is a fish, and here my thumb is the eye, for example, the mouth can be here in the middle. Maybe you can do this.
Oh, I see.
If the mouth is in the middle, it means that the fish swims and catches the prey on the same level in the water. Then, if the mouth is here, if the mouth is at the top of the face and has a big bottom lip, it means that the fish swims underneath the prey and comes up to get it. And then
Wow,
if the mouth is at the bottom, then it means that it swims over its prey and gobbles down. So each fish, the location of the mouth tells us where it lives. If it lives below and hunts up, if it lives high and hunts down, or if it uses speed to catch things on the same level.
Lovely explanation, sir. One student has asked, sir, the stingray, why its name is stingray? Why? What they do with us?
So stingrays are actually in the same family as animals as sharks. The scientific classification is called elasmobranch. And all sharks and stingrays have cartilage skeletons. So you'll notice when they swim, they're very flexible. The stingray has its name because in the back of its tail, like a scorpion, It has a sting. Um, the scorpion can use its sting to thrust it forwards over its head. And so the scorpion can use its sting to attack. A stingray, its sting points backwards and it can only use it for defense.
Oh.
So it's not dangerous unless you tread on it or attack it or try and eat it. But still, it has this name.
Okay. Sir, we have heard about octopus, in natural environment, when they get scared, okay, with some predators or other animals, they release some blue ink, right? But do they do same thing in aquarium also? Because here though they don't have any threat.
This is really good. This confused me for many years.
Okay.
Because I never saw the octopus release ink in the aquarium. And I wondered whether there was something special with the diet or if the people had done something. But in fact, it can do. It just feels very safe because there are no predators. It's a defense mechanism, which it doesn't need without predators.
Okay.
So if we were really mean, if we banged on the glass and shouted and screamed, then it would release ink. But we don't want to. We don't want to do that.
Make them scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Another very important question. See, our children, some children, especially not only they are fussy for food, right? So have you such kind of marine animals also? They are fussy for food and you have to literally feed them?
Yeah. There are each animal here has. We know what the species should eat. Well, the scientists, we know this. But there are individuals who need their food cut into a certain way, so it's a certain size, or they'll turn their nose up, so they'll decide that they don't want to eat certain things. So the sand tiger sharks, for example, they normally eat squid. They really like squid. But there is one sand tiger shark called Howie who will only eat certain squid. Sometimes she'll swim up, have a look at the squid. She's not interested. And you have to dangle it in the water and make it move in the right way. Otherwise, she won't be interested. It can be tricky.
Okay.
But
Students have asked questions, sir. We don't have dolphins in our aquarium?
No.
Why not?
In the UK, no one has dolphins in the United Kingdom. It's because we don't believe that we can make a habitat that is suitable for them. Dolphins are very clever and they need a very big space.
Yeah, they need to jump. That is why.
Yeah. So it would be cruel, we think.
Or do we have some seahorses or white shark or blue shark in our tanks? Our children want to see if you have.
We actually don't. We used to have seahorses here. We used to have hundreds 15 years ago. We had a specialist whose job it was to breed seahorses and have seahorse babies. But he left a long time ago. And now all of the animals that we have here reflect the different skills of the staff who were here at the time. So because we don't have a seahorse expert at the moment, we don't have any seahorses.
Okay.
And for the sharks, we have sharks that spend time on the reef. So here, here the sharks that we have
Stingray.
are smooth hounds. There's a ray here. We have some zebra sharks and the sand tiger sharks you saw, but no blue sharks or white sharks at the moment.
Okay. Sir, these sharks, large size fish, right? So per day, what amount of food you feed them?
Oh, that's a good question. The biggest sharks, the sand tiger sharks, they have 2 or 3 small fish about the size of my hand. in one day.
3 or 4?
2 or 3.
So you feed them, or they hunt and finish it?
No, we feed them. We
Okay.
do it in a controlled way to stop them
Oh.
from eating everything.
Okay, wow, great, great. And sir, you see, animals, they pass their waste also in the water, right?
Yes.
So they fall sick if you don't clean it. So do we need to clean all these tanks regularly or no?
Yeah. We have in this one behind me, we actually have scuba divers that go into the water to clean the tank, because it's not possible to empty the water and put the fish somewhere else, like with a small fish tank. So
Yeah.
instead, the scuba divers go in and scrub the glass and clean it. It happens in here 3 times a week. It's busy work.
And Stu, I wish if you can share, while handling all these animals in aquarium, some funny or maybe some dangerous incidences occurred in the past.
Yeah.
If you can share with us.
I'll tell you my favorite. It's really fun.
Okay.
I haven't been able to show you today. I'll go over now and see if we can see. But we do have a sea turtle here. The sea turtle, his name is Friday. He's not always easy to see because it's the big tank and he goes right to the back sometimes. But Friday, our sea turtle, is actually the most dangerous animal in the aquarium. Not to kill people, he's not that dangerous, but to say we have the stingrays here and the sharks, and the scuba divers go into this tank, they swim with all of these animals. They've never been bitten, never in 20 years. However, here he is. It's really difficult to film him, I'm sorry. He is in this light. I hope he'll come down in a moment.
Yes, we could see.
Okay, so Friday the turtle, every time a scuba diver goes into the water, they have to go in with a bodyguard to protect them from Friday, because he's not aggressive, but he's very curious, and he has the sharp beak to help him eat jellyfish.
Okay.
And somebody comes in to clean the tank, and somebody else has to come in and find Friday, hold his shell, and tickle him on the back of the neck. And if they stop tickling him and playing with him, just like with a dog or another animal, if they stop tickling him, then he swims over and bites the other diver. And in the past, he normally bites people on the shoulder, on the fin, or sometimes there have been really funny stories about him biting people on the bottom. So he's a menace. He's lovely, we love him, but he's a menace.
Wow, Stu, you have explained very nicely, and we really, feeling like we are in, anime in UK. Actually, we are not just doing virtual trip. We're feeling like we are roaming around with you in aquarium. Very nicely you've explained. On behalf of Uttam and Zebra School for Children, I shall take this opportunity to express my most sincere gratitude to Stu Hicks for organizing a wonderful virtual trip to National Marine Aquarium, UK. The students really enjoyed the virtual trip and deciphered marine diversity and adaptations. I would like to thank our school management for their unflinching support and coordination. Our heartfelt thanks to our students for their active participation. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for letting me join as well. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Stu.
Thank you, sir.
Really wonderful. It was
Yes.
really, we just have a lovely tour, virtual tour with you, and the kids really enjoyed. Thank you so much.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you so much, sir.
Great. Okay. Well,
Good
I
day.
think that's it from us. Thank you very much, everyone. See you later.
Bye.
Bye, sir.